Joe Budden violates and disrespects his girlfriend, Sade. That's right, on Patreon, Joe Budden just dropped Podwives, and it was a podcast about the relationships with, the women who are married or dating the guys on the pod, and he released a clip on the YouTube channel for free, but the Patreon is where a lot of the crazy topics happen, and I'm going to break down how Joe Budden may have just disrespected the crap out of his girlfriend, Sade. Now, for those of you that don't know, Sade is kind of an IG model, someone who's very popular for her assets, and she dates Joe Budden. Now, I largely haven't covered her on the channel because she wasn't really a member of the show, but she is now, and I'm going to try to do this with grace, and I also feel like I may have broken the code on what happened to Mo, but that's going to happen at the end of the video. So, some of the highlights of this was Joe Budden's girl, Sade, saying she's not okay with her being content all the time. And, there's a real dicey situation was brought up when Sade said Joe brought up a topic that she did not feel comfortable with all the way, and that topic was about aborting a possible baby. But she said they agreed to it, and that when Joe talked about it on the pod, and even though things were bleeped out, it still was unsettling to her because she had to go to the pod. She ain't feel comfortable. People was probably going to be talking about her. And I actually remember this episode where they were talking about, oh, how do you get a girl to like do an abortion and all that? And Ice made a joke. It was actually a funny joke. He said, oh, we'll keep the next one, baby. And I think that was in reference to Sade. And it just kind of gives me shades of Howard Stern. I believe Howard Stern's wife had a miscarriage. Howard Stern did a bit on the show where he talked about, he created a character where someone played the dead baby.
Tried to have a baby and you failed.
And his wife was not cool with it. So I don't know if they're going to be able to survive this. I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to take a lot of negotiation of Sade on her and more negotiation from her because Joe's not going to stop. The pod is too successful for him to care about her feelings, and I don't know if she's ready for that. Then Joe, his girl Sade, calls him out for not being married and even notes how the fan community talks about Sade. Now, we all know the Joe Budden podcast fan base is ravenous. I know I have kind of observed that there's so many people that hate me just because I cover the pod. But the reason this is significant is because the other two ladies, Park's girl and Ian's girl, are married. Sade stuck out like a sore thumb. If that boy don't love you by now, he won't ever, ever love you. And she just stuck out. And I think she's very self-conscious about it. I know on the pod, Joe has talked about, oh, I'm going to marry her. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to make her right. And I'm just saying, I don't know if that's going to happen. I can see a situation where we get into repeat. Where each level, Joe, each level of commitment, Joe, all right, there was Tahiri. I love it, hip-hop. He proposed.
Come on, Joe, don't do it. Don't, please, 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 please.
Will you marry me?
Then that didn't happen because it was for the camera, they say. Then he proposed to Sin at the podcast.
Cynthia Pacheco, will you marry me?
Then that didn't happen because they were two ships in the night. Then I think he will propose to her. He's going to propose to Sade at some point. But it will be for theatrics, and I don't think Sade is going to make it to the finals. I think she's going to be like Damian Lillard. She's going to be exiting the second round, maybe the third round if she gets frisky, but we'll have to monitor. And then they start getting into pod boundaries. They talk about should pod wives have jobs. Rem, who is Park's girl, is the only one who has like a real job, like a real career. I believe Ian's girl, Ian's wife, she actually has a career. Well, I don't know if she has a career, but she does have a job that she does do on occasion. And then there was an interesting conversation about would the wives leave them if they lost their job and they were down bad. Obviously, all of them say no. I call cap on that. I think Joe's girl would leave him if everything went wrong. She would leave him for like Break Baby or something. But anyway, then we get back to, the rest of the pod, and they start discussing kind of the boundaries of their relationship. And Sade calls out Joe for how often he goes to the strip club. And that's something that a lot of fans have noticed. It's like, yo, this dude has been going to the strip club more and more. Like when he used to do it in his younger years, you're like, oh, he's a young man, you know, he's strapping young lad. He's probably going to do that because who doesn't want to be around beautiful women half naked dancing? But now that he's older and it seems like it's increasing and it's only getting worse because of the money he has, it doesn't seem like he's going to let up anytime soon. So she's uncomfortable about it. Even though she goes to the club, she hangs out and all that stuff, she still is like, whoa, this is weird. This is awkward. It kind of gives me shades of Offset and Cardi B. You remember initially when Cardi B was pretending to be down with like all the freaky stuff and like showing her man, but then she started to become uncomfortable by it as, you know, the relationship deepened. We're going to have to monitor this, especially if it becomes a storyline on Pod Wives. And then the final chapter starts to unveil, at least for me. Sade talks about how Joe Budden has kind of violated the sanctity of their situationship by, you know, allowing these strippers, these hussies in the club to play with him. Basically, there was this bartender or startender that was taking like pictures and posting his coffee mug on her IG story and saying stuff like he loves it here, and also cozying up to Joe by sitting on his lap, and she wasn't feeling that. And then she said that he took one of these girls out to a dinner and it made her feel uncomfortable. A lot was being revealed. I think Sade looked the absolute worst. I believe Ian and Park's girl look great, especially Park's girl because she just seemed low maintenance. Everybody's gonna love her, and she has a career. She said she's down to pay half the rent. It honestly seems like it just seems too good to be true. I don't know what's going on in Park's household because it just looks too nice and manicured. But Sade would eventually reveal Joe asked her to unfollow somebody. After Joe found out she was texting a soccer dad with a whole lot of bread. I mean, this guy was loaded. He apparently owned yachts and whatnot, and he wasn't with it. So there seems to be a bit of jealousy, a bit of situational dynamics where Joe kind of curates a gaslighting philosophy. And oh man, there's another thing that I thought we should talk about is Sade calls out Joe for taking out strippers to eat. Now, that made my ear kind of sprout up because I thought like, wait, where's Mo? And here's why I said that. Mo used to be on the pod a lot. Then a certain situation happened featuring one of the Peanut brothers, and all of a sudden she wasn't on the pod. I mean, Sade did come out and say, hey, everything's cool. But why isn't she on the pod anymore? And I believe Mo was sending shots at Joe or Sade and stuff like that. So I'm not saying Mo was the stripper Sade was talking about, but I do think that was the situation and why you may not see Mo around anymore. Now, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about this Pod Wives episode. I do think it was pretty good. And it shows how Ian and Joe can kind of produce things. I believe Ian was a big part in putting this together. So if you notice, Ian, he's behind Improper Improv. He's behind Pod Wives. It seems like he's big into creating things at the network. Like he isn't just a manager. So that might give you a sense of what's going on over there. Breaking news, everybody. At the front desk of The Stop, Mo has released a series of IG posts where she seems to be responding to Sade and Joe's Pod Wives. First, she posted 50 Cent's classic Why He Mentioned in Me meme.
The computer say, Floyd said, T.I. Nelly 50. I'm like, what did he say me for?
Then she followed it up by posting Joe Budden on the floor laughing. Could this mean that, maybe things are cool? And then she posts a classic, iconic moment where Joe screams at Ish, saying that other people had your girl outside.
I never heard from you. I'm sorry. Other had your outside. It wasn't my shut the up in 2024.
Now, is that a reference to Joe? Maybe with other women, not necessarily her. This is very interesting, and she would also wrap it up with one final meme where somebody is alluding to having a ball, like Wendy Williams would be having a ball as a result of all this mess stuff. Now, I think this is interesting behavior because, Sade and Joe say they're not referencing her, but this response would indicate that, maybe it is something. I'm not saying it's her, but something adjacent, something parallel, something concurrent, something happened. I've mentioned this on my channel before. She was on the pod every day. Like every time they would record, she was there. And if she wasn't on the pod, she was in the background. And a lot of people said they liked her on the pod. There you go. It was just came across. I had to edit the video to put this in. And man, fascinating stuff going on in Podland. There's some miscommunication going on. Who knows? Maybe Mo might be on the pod in the future. And also, if you remember, you know what I just thought about Podsgiving? Remember the Podsgiving body language? You had Joe and Sade on the couch, and then you had Mo on the other end of the couch. Something's going on. And I got to do the science. Once again, I'm not saying I have all of this broken down. This is a case we're working on. We're putting it on the bulletin board, man. That's all we're doing. We're building a case. We're trying to get through it. Feel free to leave your science in the comments. There's people who say the person who wrote "I love it," he loves it here on Instagram was Mo, and I'm trying to find if that was indeed the case. It's a lot of digging we got to do. Anyway, with that said, follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. And tap in with me on Patreon because there's a lot of stuff going on, man. I broke down me and Rocky falling out. I broke down Flip looking for me. I also have the Homecoming University skit. A lot of stuff is happening. And I just want to say, man, people saying that I be, shooting at people. I did not respond until I saw about like 15 shots. And a lot of people, for those who know, you know. All right. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.